In the recent developer livestream, Bungie showcased bits of the content they plan to drop with Acts 2 and 3 of Episode Heresy. If you haven't watched the livestream, I highly recommend you go do that, because it's a blast, honestly. The content ranges from a PvP game mode where we get to pilot brigs and tanks and fight each other, to the Talk of the Town, the Dungeon Pantheon style event. Bungie will be shining the spotlight on 3 dungeons for the duration of this event: Prophecy, Ghost of the Deep, and Spire of the Watcher. We're talking a beginner difficulty to get people into the activity, revamped and shiny loot, and a contest difficulty. Basically, if you love endgame PvE, you're looking to have a good time. Or maybe not. There is one caveat to all this good news that's been the latest surge of controversy on D2 Twitter. Bungie has stated that they will be experimenting with the contest formula by adding in their not swap modifier to these activities. For those of you with healthy mental states, not swap is a modifier previously only found in PvP modes such as Trials and Comp. The modifier reads as follows: swapping exotic armor, kinetic weapons, and energy weapons drains all ability energy. This modifier was originally introduced because players would swap to super lengthening exotics and super counter weapons in Trials after so many rounds. The hope, obviously, to keep people on their one loadout as much as possible. In fact, DMG tweeted out a message asking for feedback, while also showing us the thought process behind why they would make this decision. This video is meant to be me giving my 2 cents about the whole thing, why I ultimately oppose the addition of not swap and trying to restrict loadout swapping in contest, and also potential alternatives to not swap if Bungie feels so inclined. I'm going to start off by talking about the problems with not swap specifically before getting into the deeper conversations of loadout swaps as a whole. First off, to reduce confusion, not swap doesn't work exactly how it states it does. You only lose energy if you swap ammo types on your weapons, like swapping from Multimach to Riptide, and if you swap non-exotic class item exotic armor. If you swap from exotic class item to a different exotic class item, you don't lose any energy. The reason not swap is bad is because of how it works fundamentally and how it does nothing to achieve the goal Bungie are setting out to achieve with it. Surge swaps are still completely possible. Sanguine swaps work the exact same way. Titans lose a little bit of T-crash damage that never realistically mattered anyway. But Hunters become obsolete. If Hunters cannot swap to Celestial, what even is the point of having a Hunter? Their neutral is eclipsed by Titans. Not swap changes fundamentally nothing about how the game will play except make being on Hunter an active throw. Don't even get me started on the ammo economy of it all. The current Destiny 2 sandbox does not facilitate not being able to swap around your gear. It is also a total cheap band-aid solution to the problem they want to solve. The more I sit here and look at the blank portion of the script, trying to figure out how I want to vocalize my thoughts, the more I just get frustrated. Frustrated just thinking about how this is even a problem, or an argument we're having. This video is intended to be feedback to DMG and Bungie, so let's get his tweet back on screen and go over it first, and we'll go from there. Firstly, DMG says they, quote, often hear complaints on difficulty in high-end content feeling easier thanks to swapping from build to build, end quote. DMG, no you do not. Why are we lying? The people that are both good enough to call contest easy and are saying they hate loadout swaps do not talk about this problem at all. In fact, Niwo is the only one that I knew would like this once I saw it, because he openly has said he doesn't like loadout swaps in some random tweet from forever ago. Also, to point out, here's a tweet from Obama Gaming, big time not swap enjoyer, from a month ago saying how loadout swapping is really cool in response to Raffle Waffles. Truly amazing stuff. DMG continues saying that max surges plus super boosting exotic loadouts are giving players far greater output than expected, and I just don't believe that. He writes in a reply that this could lead to Reckoning style design, potentially having to balance bosses around 2, 3, 4 loadout swaps. Bungie, you just don't need to. I do not know how the raid and dungeon team currently goes about deciding how much health a boss should have. But I do know that we have been loadout swapping for 2 years now, and the bosses have usually felt pretty consistently fine health pool wise, except probably Sunder Doctrine Final and Nezarec, which I feel are huge outliers anyways. Like, sure, we aren't struggling to kill Atheon in 4 phases anymore, or needing to 4 phase anything for that matter. But comfy 3 phases feel just fine. But if you feel so inclined, Bungie, if you are so worried about overbalancing health pools for contests, I have a thought experiment for you. In Sunder Doctrine, Zoetic Lockset is a boss that doesn't take extra damage from surges. So we have a very clear baseline for your guys' idea for decent boss health. The result? My team 2-phased during my first clear. We had 1 Hunter doing no crit Golden Gun and 2 Well Warlocks, all of us using Grand Overture. You guys need to reevaluate how much damage our guns are actually putting out. Let me make this clear. I really don't want you to nerf our weapons, but rather, you should buff boss health bars. Again, I don't know the Raid and Dungeon team's process, but they need to be able to cook their own bosses so they can get a proper feel for how much health a boss should have. Loadout swaps are only as broken as the weapons it's buffing. I would also like to clear up a lot of confusion I'm seeing from various people talking about this topic, including DMG in his tweet and Raffle Waffles in his video. Players, during their initial contest clears, are doing 2 loadout swaps. Their neutral game loadout and their super damage exotic plus surges loadout. No more, no less than 2. Nobody is putting on Lunafactions before welling then swapping. Nobody is doing Lucky Pants swap after they completely burn ammo. Nobody. Not Obama, not Niwo, Salt, Datto, Luigi Style, Biggs, Mario, Special Hero Tides, ATP, Zemo, Aegis, any player you can think of is only ever doing 2. I concede that they might swap to Outbreak or Knucklehead if they need it. But the idea that the norm is anything higher than 2 is propaganda at best. Not swap enjoyers are also saying how OP it is to basically have 2 exotic effects at the same time. Ah yes, the game is getting blown wide open because I can have a couple seconds of gifted conviction DR while I have my Goldie popped. I'm not even sure that's how that works, so I'm assuming a best case scenario for them, and it's still dumb. Heaven forbid I have a speaker sight turret up for 15 seconds while I have on some random exotic. And then it's gone, and so is the effect. Very few exotics in this game that are good for day ones have persisting effects in the first place. And I'm sorry, but I just don't care about the less than a minute long instance we potentially have 2 exotic effects. I think in terms of addressing things that are overpowered, we should look into the fact that as a warlock, I have not swapped supers in almost 10 years. Or maybe look into the GM speedrun leaderboards for some inspiration as to what might be too strong. I feel that maybe our priorities are just a little skewed. That's all. Don't even get me started on the menu gameplay. Oh my god, guys, the menu gameplay is so boring. Wah. For reference, allow me to remind everybody what we are arguing about exactly. Please, dear Not Swap viewer, allow me to put Subway Surfers gameplay and Family Guy clips in the corners so you are thoroughly entertained and attentive the entire time. The clunkiness, I get. But boring? How can something that lasts less than 2 seconds be boring in any measurable regard? How desperate are we as a species to be constantly engaged in the action that we complain about 2 seconds of downtime? All in all, it comes down to this for me. Bungie, trying to take away loadout swaps in any way just fundamentally gives less agency to the player. Not swap is a lazy fix that won't do anything meaningful in the direction you want it to. The game's contest bosses can already be cleared just fine without surges at all. Optimizing the fun out of a game does not exist. DPS is not a role when all of us do the same DPS because we're all using the same weapon. Is my opinion that you reconsider how you're approaching this. I'd like to thank everyone for the immense amount of support on my last discussion style video, even if it wasn't the best. I'd like to thank you for watching this video through to the end. Maybe shoot me a like, comment, or sub. Anything to help tell me that this type of content is something to continue doing. And have a wonderful day.